kind of excited because my package, I've been tracking my package this week, and it's going to arrive sometime this afternoon. All right, there goes the UPS guy. And there's my package. So here we go. We're going to do a little unboxing and a review. So it looks like we've got some styrofoam, we have owner's manual and some little rubber, looks like little rubber feet here, and some foam plugs, I think, for the ports. We'll take that out. And I guess this all has to be lifted out in pieces, all right? Take a look inside. We've got a couple speakers wrapped up. Alright, first impressions. Vinyl surface is kind of interesting. It's used to usually seeing this wood grain finish, but in the past, when I've had vinyl wrapped speakers, often had a bit of a wood grain, but these are kind of a matte finish, and they're much different than what I'm used to feeling. I've never owned KEF speakers. Obviously, there are many fine speaker brands that I've never had the pleasure to own. But come on, KEF? Shouldn't every serious audio enthusiast own at least one pair during their lifetime? Recently, I stopped into a local hi-fi shop and mentioned to the salesman that my room is not very spacious, and that I believe that some of the speakers I've owned during the past months have been a bit too large for the room, that I'm thinking maybe some smaller models would be better suited. He confidently hooked up some KEF R3s, and I was quickly blown away by them. Now, the price of $2,000 was the only thing that prevented me from whipping out my credit card and walking out with them that day. So what makes KEF speakers so special? Well, they are a legendary speaker brand that have been in business for close to 60 years, and they also incorporate their UniQ driver into all their models. Now, I remember back when the first C-Series speakers came out with this UniQ driver, and it was more than 30 years ago, and they impressed me very much back then. These speakers have something called a dual concentric design. Rather than have a separate tweeter and woofer mounted one above the other on the front of the speaker, the tweeter has been inserted into the center of the woofer cone. Well, why would they do that? That looks complicated. Well, a couple of reasons. Rather than two separate sound points emitting from the front of a speaker, one above the other, there is just one coherent point source. It is said this improves music imaging. Also, engineers say high frequencies travel through air faster than low ones, and manufacturers have been time-aligning speakers for decades by recessing the tweeters and tilting the front plane of the cabinet back so they are slightly further away from your ears than the mid-range and woofer cones. The idea is that all frequencies arrive to your ears at the same time. I believe it's been established now that I'm not going to spend $2,000 on new speakers at this time, but I really had a desire to own some KEFs. I can't recall how exactly I found or decided on the Q150s, but I saw that they are priced now at $299, around half price. I found a seller who offered them with free shipping and no sales tax. I guess it was a no-brainer. So let's describe these as bookshelf-style loudspeakers. They're two-way with a 5 1/4 inch woofer, 1 inch tweeter, both made out of aluminum. As you can see, they're very stylish looking. They're compact. And around the back, we've got a port which makes them bass reflex design. And they have a single set of binding posts. Grills are optional and they're $40 extra. My source will be digital for this. I'll be using TIDAL CD quality streaming through an iPad Pro, and my DAC is a AudioQuest Dragonfly Black and a Jitterbug plugged directly into my Nakamichi receiver. My Nakamichi is rated at 75 watts per channel and has a unique stasis amplifier section that was designed by Nelson Pass for Threshold back in the day. When I first connected the Q150s, there was a period of getting used to their presentation, and after a couple of hours, my initial impressions were that they have a delicate and smooth character. Vocals in particular stood out. They sounded natural, not colored in any way, as far as I could tell. However, I felt that they were lacking in some dynamics, and I was a tad underwhelmed. I'm talking about a track by Takuya Kuruda called Everybody Loves the Sunshine. Now, he's a Japanese jazz trumpeter, and it's a great band, and in particular there's a snare drum sound on this song that's really pronounced and really, snaps and pops out. And I thought the impact wasn't there with these speakers. They seemed nice and polite, but not as engaging as I'd hoped. So I decided to connect a Acurus amplifier that I had lying in the room on the floor and connect it through the preamp outputs of the Nakamichi receiver and see what 125 watts per channel might do, this high current 125 watts per channel amp might do with these speakers. So I hooked up the Acurus and I was thrilled with the results. The KEFs really opened up, nice full bass, more dynamic. The snare on Everybody Loves the Sunshine was where it should be, and some of the politeness was gone and engagement was there at last. One of my deep bass evaluation tracks is Angel by Massive Attack. Now, this Bristol, England-based trip-hop trio is known for their amazing production, and the low electronic bass throb and kick drum from this song can reveal some of what a speaker is capable of and also its shortcomings. And these KEFs handled it well and produced a healthy amount of low notes. However, when I cranked up the volume to a much higher level, I did detect maybe a little bit of chuffing in the bass port in the rear. But remember, these are very small boxes, so, what do you expect? I then decided to mix things up and try these KEFs in my computer desktop system. Now, this comprises of a 2018 Mac Mini connected to a Modi 2 Uber DAC via SPDIF, and I'm using an old Marantz 2270 receiver as a preamp that goes down to the Acurus amp down on the floor under my desk. I'm using some old Klipsch's tower speakers as stands because they're like the perfect ear height. I then towed them in towards my seating position where they are about 4 feet from my head, near field monitor style. And wow, they're really terrific in this setup. I'm hearing every nuance of these recordings. It's not exactly like wearing headphones, but it has somewhat similar effect, and it's very impressive. One of my personal all-time favorites is Bjork. Now, she's the musical genius from Iceland who's been delighting her fans since the 1980s with her unconventional approach to popular music. You're never going to hear just guitar, bass, and drums on one of her records. The song I picked was Hunter. Now, this starts out with kind of like crazy insect-like percussion beats alternating left and right, throbbing, really deep bass. There's a frantic, menacing snare drum in the right channel, so close you think you can touch it. And the strings are swooping in and out and sometimes keeping the rhythm. And there's an accordion floating just behind Bjork's voice. And what a voice. It's floating around the soundstage, back to front, left to right, and halfway through the song it sounded as if her voice was just floating a few feet above my head. Now these speakers did a fantastic job presenting that really very complex track. So what is my verdict about the KEF Q150s? Well, let me just say that I like them. And I also want to note that the Nakamichi receiver is no slouch. It is a top-notch performer, and I've used it with numerous other speakers, and it's always been a great performer with those. It just, for some reason, didn't work as well as the Acurus with these particular speakers. Now, these observations are from my personal experience with them. They like a little space around them, especially away from the front wall. Listen to them at ear level, don't put them too low. They're great in smallish rooms and excellent as near-field monitors. I like how they generate surprisingly good bass. The specs say 50 Hz, but it sounds deeper to me. They have great imaging characteristics and present a large soundstage. Mid-range vocal quality is outstanding. They're pretty revealing. The tweeters can resolve fine, delicate audio details without sounding harsh. Any quibbles I have with these Q150s will certainly be very minor. I'm confident that a moderately powered amplifier will work just fine with them, but from my experience, higher power will really make them shine. With that, be careful not to push them too hard. They will get plenty loud on their own at moderate levels, but they definitely could be overdriven due to their compact dimensions. Now, adding a subwoofer would not be a terrible idea. I tried it and my system sounds better still. I like this near-field monitor setup I have here. I'm going to keep it like this for a while, I think. Every day I own them, the more I enjoy them. I'm listening, I'm hearing things in recordings that I don't recall noticing before, which is always, to me, a sign of a great speaker. If you enjoyed my video and this review, please subscribe. Give me a thumbs up, leave comments. It's all good.